Hey there, we're back. It's UP Power with Kevin McNulty and Keegan Cooper. Keegan, we're rocking the new TV6 gear. We're matching. I think we both are fans of the new gear.
Big fan.
Yeah, it's been a minute since our old stuff had the peacock in it still. Of course, we're still an NBC affiliate here at TV6, but new logo and gear looks sharp. You are getting ready to go live this evening. It's a special Friday edition of UP Power. You were on vacation, so delayed until now, but boys basketball district finals tonight. This is one of my favorite nights of the year. A little bit bummed that the Marquette game got moved to Saturday. You understand, Traverse City West driving up across the bridge. Couldn't make it today, so that game will be played on Saturday. But talking D3, we'll start with the game you're going to tonight. Menominee Iron Mountain. I didn't think we were going to get this game. A rematch of last year's district final, potentially maybe the year before they met in the district final as well. Two teams that are very familiar with each other, two really good coaches. And last year it was Menominee in a thriller. A lot of Mountaineers not happy about calls made down the stretch. You and I remember that well. That was the district final at Menominee tonight at Iron Mountain. Should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a packed house, and, we're talking a little bit off camera, but the keys to the game, I think, are really simple. When you look at how Menominee got to the district final up against Munising.
And it was an upset.
Yeah, it was.
It was a real upset. You know, you and I were kind of waiting on Menominee all year, their younger team. Obviously, Trevor Turkoff was their leader last year, Landon Bardowski, those football players that were great on the basketball court, too. Tanner Turkoff, their best player, he's a junior. Dylan Beal was an all-conference player as well. He's a sophomore, and Darren Butler, I believe, is a junior too. So they're a young team. We're kind of waiting on them, and they showed up really in the second half of that Munising game.
Yeah, and they showed up with their defensive intensity, the full court press and, pressing Carson Keenitz and Trevor Nolan up and down the floor when they were handling the ball, double teaming, trapping in the corners, kind of playing that gritty basketball, and that's what got them now into the district final against Iron Mountain. Now, keys tonight, we're talking probably Mr. UP basketball and Oscar Kangas. I think he's a front runner for that award. You got to stop him. You got to limit.
Absolutely.
You got to limit him. Can you get him in foul trouble? Now, we think about the Munising Menominee game. Tanner got in a little bit of foul trouble too. So can he stay out of foul trouble so he can stay on the floor more? To me, that is the key. It's how long can you keep Oscar and Tanner on the floor and them not be in foul trouble, because fouls are going to get called tonight, right?
Absolutely. I think it's been a factor for Iron Mountain all year long. I remember a game at Westwood. Those two shared the Westpac regular season title. Iron Mountain played great in that game, but Gerald Sample-Torres, their point guard, had 4 fouls at one point in the second half, and Bucky left him in. So I asked after the game, was that the plan? He's like, we're not very deep. So I kind of don't have a choice. Guys are going to have to play through foul trouble tonight. But Menominee plays the type of defense they played at Munising. I didn't expect that because that's what kept them in. Remember, it was 5-0 after one quarter, and then what was the score at halftime? Something like 16-12?
Yeah, 16-12, 14-12, something like that, yeah.
So you don't score for the first 10 minutes of the game, and you're still right in it.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable when you think about that.
And a Munising team that can shoot the lights out on a good night with Trevor Nolan, a state champ as a sophomore, now a senior. He only had 8 points on the night. I know he knocked down a couple long threes, but to keep him under 10, Carson Keenitz, a great player all year long, and he's bigger than you think. He's 6'4", 6'5", limited him. That was really impressive. So if they can do that again, and it might come down to shot making, in my opinion, Darren Butler can heat up from 3 for the Maroons. And then Iron Mountain, you got kids that can shoot, Copley and Braden Kaysen as well. So if shots are going in, that'll be an advantage, but I think it might be another slugfest like Menominee played the other night.
Yeah, true. I think it will be, and you're at Iron Mountain's place right now, so you know that building is going to be rocking. Menominee fans travel well, though, so they'll have the Maroons in the stands tonight, but it's going to be a battle, and I think that's when you get into the district play, postseason play, especially the district final. You're going to be playing another good team. You have to bring it. Menominee can't go scoreless for 10 minutes again.
No,
They can't. And beat Iron Mountain. They cannot.
No, and they're going on the road again. It is really amazing that they were able to withstand that on Wednesday. And Iron Mountain's coming off a big win over Gwynn in the district semis. So that's a fun one in Division III. Let's stay in Division III. Westwood and Ishpeming, and two teams that know each other very well. A lot of these kids played together growing up, crosstown in Ishpeming. Do the Hematites have a chance?
I think so, but I think Caden Luma is going to have to be great.
I agree.
And what I mean by that is when you put
He was great on Monday.
He was, yeah. He's going to have to know probably that he's going to have a 25, 30, 35-point night. Because you are going up against Westwood and Ethan Marta, who every night can give you 30. He doesn't have to, because he has guys like Tristan Miller who can put the ball in the basket too. But it's going to come down to those two, I think.
And I think we'll get into the girls a little bit, but the difference between the Negaunee girls and the Gladstone girls, two best teams in the top three divisions this season, is depth. And I think that's a little bit the key for Westwood and why they swept the regular season series is they have a good team around Ethan Marta. Obviously, he's their best player. He can score it like no one else in the UP, really. When you think about from three getting to the rim, he does it all. Ishpeming outside of Caden Luma, do they have enough? Can they defend at a high level? Ethan Korp is a nice player. He's on the all-defensive team in the West Pack. But around him, can they score? I think I've seen some Ishpeming games where they struggle to score it outside of Luma, and that has doomed them. So it was back on December 6th these two teams played. Westwood gets the win 61-44 over the rivals. And then February 5th, not too long ago, 69-45. So not tight games, both in double figures. Wins for Westwood. Ishpeming going on the road, we'll see what happens. If Marta's not on it, that's the thing with the Patriots and why they were regular season champs with Iron Mountain is, they get a lot of contributions from guys in their starting lineup, Balzerini, and, think about Tristan Miller, like you mentioned. He's another all-conference player. So I like Westwood, but I don't think you can count Ishpeming out.
Yeah, and I think you'll see tonight, Marta's going to guard Luma, Luma's going to guard Marta.
Yeah.
So that matchup will be really great because, like we've talked about before, if Marta's having an off night and Luma's not, maybe you give the edge to Ishpeming, but you flip it around, and if Marta's heating up and hitting everything, then you're going to be saying Westwood Patriots are district champs.
The results are the results. I mean, Westwood's 18-5, Ishpeming 13-10. That's your difference in the regular season. 5 games better the Patriots were. How about D2? Negaunee goes on the road to Houghton, a team they lost to earlier this month, and they dominated the Gremlins on Wednesday. Didn't necessarily expect that just based on how their last game went. But playing without Baron Heslop, I think that'll still be the case tonight. He's one of their top players, another all-conference kid. But Jordan Gannett can score with the best of them in the UP. We've seen that they're in that game at Marquette because of him. And there's been other games where he just goes off, and he buried Menominee, and that's why I wasn't very high on Menominee going into the postseason, because I watched that just last week where Gannett made 3 straight triples in the third quarter, and a 5-point lead went to almost a 15-point lead, and that was kind of the game. They buried Menominee. And Negaunee gets a night like that from Gannett and defends at a high level. That's the thing with Kingsford and why they beat Marquette is, they're 5 when they're out there. Jet Buckley, Trevelyan, run the point. He can pass.
Yeah.
Morgan Slake, their big guy. They're a complete 5 when they're out there together. And I didn't even mention Gavin Grondin, their best player, who's going to play at Lake State, who's fighting for a conference championship on Saturday in the GLIAC. So Kingsford, the better team, the favorite tonight. They're at home. But Gannett, is it another Gannett has to go off? And defending, like I mentioned. If you keep Kingsford down maybe in the 50s, somewhere around the 60-point mark, Negaunee should be in it.
Yeah, Negaunee has to control the pace tonight because Kingsford is going to run the floor.
Yeah.
They've done it all season. They're going to run you up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Can Negaunee, I won't say keep up because I think they have the players that can keep up, but can they control the pace of the game? You know, okay, Kingsford gets a fast break, that's fine. We're gonna run our offense in a half-court set. I don't think Negaunee has the edge if you're trying to play a track race in a basketball game. Kingsford just has the speed and they can play up and down. So if Negaunee controls the pace, defends really well, and Gannett can have a 25-point night, it's going to be a dogfight. And a lot of these district championships that we're talking about are going to be a dogfight. Iron Mountain, Menominee, Westwood, Ishpeming, Negaunee, Kingsford. I mean, these are teams that we've been talking about all year.
For sure.
That have now, I think, kind of shown up in the postseason, which, you talk about, play your regular season, you want to be playing your best basketball in the postseason. I think Menominee and Negaunee have kind of showed us that, hey, they are doing that now.
Wednesday was very impressive for both of those teams. Negaunee going on the road to Kingsford, I think about that football game they played in the fall, maybe one loss between them. Obviously, Kingsford went undefeated in the regular season, but Negaunee came back in that game and made it interesting in the second half. I'm wondering if we get a similar thing tonight where Kingsford comes out hot, they're running the floor, getting fast break points, and Negaunee's able to get back in it because of shot making. They have a guy by the name of Jordan Gannett who can help with that. Before we get to D4, let's talk about Marquette, Traverse City West in the district final, as I mentioned, postponed to Saturday. Sentinels lose to Kingsford last week on the road. I think it was good for them.
Yeah.
After winning 18 in a row, maybe they needed a reality check. And Kingsford played them the best of any team all year, bar none. That's why Kingsford jumped up in the UP poll ahead of Marquette. I don't know if I agree with that, but those are the two best teams in the UP.
Yep.
I would agree. So Marquette loses 72-60 on the road to the Flivers. Well, they come back on Wednesday. Of course, they had a bye. Petoskey at home, an inferior opponent, and Marquette just took it to them. I mean, I got there in the second half. It was the lead was 20 for Marquette, and in a heartbeat, the lead was 30, and the game was completely over. So 93-62, they won that one. Yeah. I think it was a really good tune-up for Traverse City West. One of their 3 losses on the season, 70-65 on December 6th.
Yeah, so
that's a long time ago. So Marquette comes into this one at home. I think that's massive that they're at home. And we talked about the situation they were in last year where they had to go on the road and their game got postponed downstate, had to come back home and play in the district final 24 hours later, less than 24 hours later, and end up losing that game. So the travel situation is better. They haven't gone anywhere. Meanwhile, West has to drive up on Saturday after expecting to leave on Friday. That shakes things up a little bit, and they are 19-4.
Yeah,
it's going to be a great game. And talking to Rich Leedy the other night after the Petoskey game, he said, if we defend, if we're tougher, that will win us the game. I totally agree with that. Against a really good team, talking about Traverse City West, recently fell to Mount Pleasant on the road, 46-44. Before that, Wayne Memorial in that showcase that Marquette played in and won both their games, one over Cass Tech by a pretty significant margin. They lost to Cadillac, and early in the year, they lost to Grand Haven. So 2 really good teams we're going to see on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think you look at the position that Marquette was in last year and what they had to deal with. Now you get an extra day's rest, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, right? Like maybe they get their
rest
extra day's
versus
rest.
rust.
Yeah, they get their extra day's rest.
I don't think they're going to be rusty going Wednesday to Saturday.
No. I think they're going to come out
fiery. I agree, but then there's always the, sitting around on Saturday until 5 o'clock. Like, what do you do with yourself?
Yeah.
Do you go to the gym? Do you get shots up?
Yeah, you don't
right?
want to kill your legs. So it will be interesting. But especially on a Saturday, that place is going to be packed.
Absolutely. It was going to be packed tonight. I understand why Traverse City West couldn't make the trip with the weather in the eastern UP. But yeah, Saturday night, place will be fun.
Yeah.
And I think for Marquette,
it's time.
It is time,
time.
to at least win district. Their road's going to be tough playing up in Division One. But get this one tomorrow, right?
Yeah. And then,
show a little UP power.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what they'll need to do. Do you want to talk UP Player of the Year? Because you threw out Oscar Kangas. I don't think that's a done deal. My pick would be Jacob McPhee right now.
I think that's a fair pick. I do think that's a fair pick. And I think it's the games that I've watched Marquette play, what he does when he doesn't have the ball in his hands,
yep.
What he does defensively, blocking shots, owning the
rebounding, yeah. Every rebound is his.
Yeah.
So teams don't get extra possessions with offensive rebounds against Marquette because he's there. He's the program's all-time leading rebounder. Kangas has been great. Ethan Marta's been great. Gavin Grondin's been great. But I think Jacob McPhee would be my player of the year. He was the player of the year in the conference over Grondin, who got defensive player of the year nods. He'd be my pick.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean,
Marquette also had the best season. That helps.
That's fair. That does help you.
I kind of know how the voting goes. Where Ethan Marta, great year too. He's junior. So maybe next year.
Maybe next year, yeah. Yeah, man, when you think about Jacob McPhee, not just defensively and rebounding, but he runs the floor. He passes it pretty well. He shoots it pretty well. He makes his free throws. Yeah, I would agree.
It's a thing of beauty when Marquette gets out in transition. It's rebound, Jermu, and everyone else is sprinting towards the basket.
Yeah.
Maybe they get a three from Ford Richardson.
I think that full court.
He was really good. He was really good on Wednesday. He had 16. McPhee had 17. He's going to be one of the stars of the show next year. I think this Marquette team with the senior class, it's time for them to win.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at Sentinels in the future with Richardson, the way he can run and score, and Connor Firestein,
it'll be all right.
They'll be fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk D4. The best D4 game of the night, Norway going on the road to Forest Park.
Yeah.
Forest Park, only 2 losses on the year, coming to Kingsford and Marquette.
Mm-hmm.
So understandable losses. And I've said if I had to pick in Division 4, it would be the Forest Park Trojans, especially with a lot of those kids who won a state championship in the fall.
They know the feeling.
With the 8-man football team. So Norway, also going on the road, been known to upset teams.
Yeah.
Because they beat Kingsford at home on a cold by buzzer beater. What do you think about Norway? Because I've seen games from them where Bryce Adams goes off. Mm-hmm. He had 8 threes in one game a couple weeks ago. And Colby, they have good athletes. Is it enough to match up with the Giuliani brothers and what Forest Park offers with their guards too? Gabe Cavedo and Dax Hookey. The young kid, they are impressive, and they hung in with Marquette when I watched them there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the question of depth, really, right? And I think Forest Park a little bit deeper when you think about who's coming off the bench and production that way.
And Kevin Giuliani's a tough customer. I mean, Vic is really good too, but think about the size with Kevin.
I'm not getting in the post with him. Like, you can just have it, big man, because he is a menace in there. Right?
He made Jacob McPhee's life very difficult when they played at Marquette.
Yeah, which is what you need when you're playing, against those teams. I think I give the edge to Forest Park, but Norway has turned it on here in the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely, they have. Yeah.
And they're going to be, you're playing not at your place, so, they're going to be fiery.
That's tough, yeah.
But it'll be a good one. But you also can't let Vic Giuliani start running. Right, because he is known to get a rebound and take it the whole way.
He's athletic too.
And I don't know who will match up with Kevin inside, but you could probably see, if I had to guess, if he catches the ball, you could probably see some double teams, some digging from the guards to try to get the ball in his hands. It will be an interesting one.
So similar to Ishpeming and Westwood, these two teams played twice during the regular season. January 2nd, Forest Park over Norway, 65-54, an 11-point win. And then February 11th, not that long ago, so they meet again. That was the Trojans over the Knights, 66-44. So 2 regular season wins for Forest Park. Got to do it again at home tonight to be district champions. The other D4 district final that we are getting to tonight, Dollar Bay at Baraga. 2 teams we've covered a decent bit this year. Baraga over Lance for the 3rd time this year on Wednesday. They got that one done. Moving on to the district final, which they get at home against a Dollar Bay team that we've seen go off.
Yeah, I mean, Liam toured a lot's world, and we're just living in it.
That's what yeah.
That's what I said on the broadcast, because he was, Joshua Gaunt, all those guys that have, played together and are now seniors and are now, competing for a district, title. I don't know. I want to give the edge to Baraga. I've seen both of these teams
think it'll
play,
be a great game.
but it's going to be a dogfight. Can Baraga limit Tortolot in what he can do? He can shoot from anywhere on the floor. He gets to the rim. He's one of those guys that can give you 20, 25 a night.
Yep.
Baraga's going to run. His name is slipping me, but they've got that big man who can.
Daniel Connor.
Yeah, they can, drive.
So how does Dollar Bay match up with him? I think that's a question.
Yeah.
Looking at these 2 teams' matchups during the regular season, back on December 12th, a long time ago, Dollar Bay took down Baraga 69-49. So that was a good one for the Blue Bolts. And then again, February 14th, a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago exactly, 56-37, the Blue Bolts won it. So uphill battle for Baraga tonight, but they are at home, like you said. I wouldn't count them out. They have some size. Could help them out this evening. Elsewhere in D4, you got North Dickinson, Rapid River. I think the Nordics will be district champs tonight. And then Wakefield, Marinisco playing Bessemer. So we'll see what the outcome of those games is. Let's talk girls for a moment, because we're getting ready for districts next week. Mentioned Negaunee Gladstone Thursday night in Negaunee. It was a 1-point lead for the Braves at halftime. Lily Johnson had 14 of their 25 in the first half. She finished with 29. And even to start the 3rd quarter, Gladstone was still getting everything they wanted. It was Lily Johnson from outside, Lily Johnson, inside, old-fashioned 3-point play, put them up 4. And then shots started to go in for Negaunee, and they just wore them down. It's the depth thing that we've talked about with these high school teams. That's a lot of it. Do you have the stars? Sure. Gladstone does with Lily Johnson, but outside of her, they didn't get a ton of scoring. She scored 29 of their 44 in that game. Just wasn't enough to keep up with a Negaunee team that had 4 players in double figures. You don't see that.
No.
In high school,
No,
especially on the girls' side, where the games, most games are played in the 40s, maybe the 50s. They scored 58 last night. Madison Peckrell led the way. She's another senior, along with Aubrey Johnson, who gets a lot of minutes. She had 15. 3 other players, as I mentioned, in double figures. So Negaunee just kind of strangles you over the course of a game, and death by a million paper cuts a little bit.
It's
because they're
it's
turning
impressive.
you over, and then they're coming down and they're making shots, and it's just tough for teams to keep up.
Yeah, and they run. They get a defensive rebound, and they're running the floor. They're looking for a fast break opportunity. But then you got to be aware of the shooters, because Aubrey and Gretel Johnson can
And
both
those two
pull it.
clearly have great chemistry out there.
Yeah, which is
you would
awesome to
would
watch.
expect them to as sisters, but and then the minor size with the O'Donnells and Kara Waterman just fights.
Yeah.
She only had 3 Thursday night, but it didn't matter because she was out there getting rebounds and
It's the thing.
knocking girls over. I just like, she's not going to put up points as a sophomore because she doesn't need to on this team, but she's another player that's just gritty, and part of the reason why they're 21-0 in the regular season. How about that accomplishment? Put it on Facebook last night that they're the only UP team to do it this year, girls or boys, to get it done in the regular season. 21-0.
It's impressive, and that's tough because over the course of a season, you're dealing with, sometimes sickness.
You think you drop one.
Injuries.
We were just talking about Kingsford going to Norway. They drop it. Marquette ends up with 3 losses. They fell to Kingsford, but no, the Negaunee girls never slipped up. Even in the 2 games against Gladstone, outside of games against Negaunee, you were undefeated. Yeah. Great season for the Braves, and I think they will make noise in the postseason. They could play again in the postseason, both in Division II. I think they will. Yeah. And I would pick Negaunee again. Yeah,
I think you'd have to. Yeah, I don't know. It's been impressive what, last year we kind of had Negaunee and Ishpeming, and this year now it's Negaunee and Gladstone that are clearly the top 2 teams in girls basketball. And I don't know, man. It is impressive to watch Negaunee.
Let's talk about Ishpeming, because what I watched last night against Houghton, it ended up being a 12-point win, but Houghton's good. They're 13-9. They looked a lot like the team we saw last year. I know they're up in Division III. The road's a little bit tougher than it was last year. They didn't have Maya Hemmer all of this season, but last night she had 14 points, 14 boards, and 7 steals.
Yeah.
When you're going like that, and they had the press on, turning the Gremlins over left and right, and it ends up with layups on the other end. Janessa Eagle can shoot it from 3. She might be the best 3-point shooter in the UP. So they've won 7 in a row, and I'm feeling a lot better about Ishpeming at this point in the year, especially when your best players have been there, done that, won a state championship last year.
Yeah, and I think that it's really nice to kind of see them again turn it on, figure out what they got to do here towards the postseason to make a run. For them to make a run, especially in D3, you're going to have Maya Hemmer to have a night where she's grabbing a double-double. She's scoring 14, 15 points, let's say 15 a night. She's getting 10-plus boards. She blocks shots. I've seen that this year. She gets steals.
All over the place. I didn't have time for her last night. She had one block. Ava Gerard's a great player for Houghton. She was on it last night, but Hemmer with the length.
Yep. And then, Janessa Eagle does what Janessa Eagle does. When I think about the team last year versus this year, it's they are going to need production in the scoring department from some of their other players.
Peyton Cokery had 16 last night. She can shoot the 3.
So there you go. Because when you think
about it, they're getting so many layups because they're turning teams over, which was a recipe for them last year.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to need. They're going to need, Maya to be in double figures, Janessa to be in double figures, a couple other girls to be in double figures. Because when you think about it last year, right, they had Eagle, Jenna Mackey, Addison Morton. I'm missing one.
Katie Kokala was the other senior.
Those 5.
Yeah.
Could score pretty much at will.
Put them up against any 5 in the state. Remember when we were down there in East Lansing, people were telling us, well, that team could have won the D3 title. Well, they're in D3 this year.
And the coach
and they're not
this.
They're not the same team this year without Mackey, Morton, and Kokala, but they're good.
They're good.
And they've won 7 in a row. So that's where I'm at on Ishpeming. Anyone else? St. Ignace only has 1 loss. We haven't really shot them, but just, texting with Doreen Ingalls, updating me on Jillian Frazier's their best player. She's outstanding. Yep. We'll be in the mix for UP Player of the Year. And elsewhere as districts begin. Yeah, I think that kind of covers it. I mentioned Houghton being a good team. They were receiving votes in the D1 through 3 poll. Calumet's good. I think they could win a district as well. High school hockey. We got a couple teams still alive. Let's start with Jeffers because Tuesday night, that was fun. A historic night for that school and that program because they hadn't won a regional in 48 years.
Yeah.
And talking with people, never expected, especially in this new era where Houghton's not in the conference, they're independent, playing all these teams from downstate, getting players from out of the area to come up to Houghton to play for the Gremlins. Well, Jeffers said,
That's fine.
Whatever.
Yeah.
No problem. And they're all from Jeffers. They're normally a co-op team with a bunch of other Baraga County, Houghton County teams. They're all from Jeffers. Their numbers are up. They were playing 1-2 lines in years past. Well, now they have a full roster of guys into the 20s where they're running good lines out there. And the way they were taking the puck away, and Houghton kept turning the puck over, and it led to goals. A little bit of puck luck, but I don't think that game would have gone differently if that first goal, the puck doesn't sky in the air and fall back into the net. They dominated that game.
Yeah, I mean, 5-1 final.
5-1, got an empty netter, and Benton Ryla gets the hat trick all in the third period. One of them was an empty netter, and then Houghton put the goalie back in right off that face-off from center ice. He goes and puts it away. It was cool seeing the Hats come out on the ice for him in the final minutes. Like I said, he scored all three in the third period. They never trailed, and they deserve to be regional champions. They have this opportunity in Marquette. It's nice. They don't have to go far. They're meeting the Sioux in the middle. The Sioux gets the win over Eski. Kind of figured that's how that one would go.
Yeah.
So
let's go Jeffers.
Keep it going. It's the
yeah.
state quarterfinals. You're in the final 8 in Division III. Very impressive.
Yeah, and it'll be exciting to see how that one goes because they're going to come out firing.
And historic, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
And the whole town, everyone's going to be there in Marquette on Saturday. So that should be a scene. Let's go for the tail of the tape on the Sioux. Jeffers is 23-4, just outstanding, and they lost to Alpena in overtime, their final game of the regular season. Outside of that, they hadn't lost to really anyone. They never lost to a UP team after December 7th. Calumet, they lost a 1-goal game. As for the Sioux, they're 12-13-1. So, and we'll get to Marquette in a moment. Marquette wasn't necessarily a team that I thought would be a regional champion, and, well, I think the Sioux's kind of in the same boat where they beat Negaunee, dominated them. Negaunee had their best team in a couple of years. Aiden Miles, shout out to him, the program's all-time leading scorer now. He set the single-season goals record for the program. So Negaunee had a good year. Going out to the Sioux, they were outmatched. And then Escanaba, a little outmatched. They get shut out. So does the Sioux get good goaltending on Saturday?
Because Jeffers is going to be pressing,
be big.
and Jeffers is going to shoot the puck a lot, and they're going to dive in for rebounds, and they're going to look for that. So the Sioux is going to have good goaltending because this could be another 5-1, 6-2.
Yeah, it was the player of the year in the conference getting that first goal. Call it lucky, sure, but Britt Hainanen was outstanding, and outside of that one, he was kind of tame, low key. He's an assistant captain. Ryla's their captain, so it was cool for him to have that night as their captain to win the regional, their first one since 1977. Talking Marquette, they're now 15-12. I mean, this team all year, we never thought we were talking about a regional championship team because not too long ago, the end of January into the beginning of February, they had lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
Including the Calumet, who wasn't a bad team, but lose to Calumet on February 7th. You come back, you beat Hancock in overtime, and then all of a sudden, 2 wins over the Midland teams in the regionals, in the semifinal and the final. Boom, you're in the final 8, taking on Flint Powers Catholic this Saturday in Saginaw.
I think it's a case of a young team because they are incredibly young.
Yeah.
Because you think about, I don't know, they had 11 or 13 seniors last year that they graduated on
A
their
bunch,
senior day.
yeah.
A young team that is figuring it out and has grown so much from the first game to where they are now. And that's, a product of what they do in practice and coaching.
But I pointed out they had lost 5 in a row not too long ago.
Yeah.
So they figured it out fast. I mean, Flint Powers, they're 22-4. And it's going to be a tough one. You're basically on the road. they're going to have a lot of fans there.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes for Marquette, but regional champs, that's
Something to be happy about.
absolutely for this team. As you mentioned, they're so young. Cole Kelly and net, I mean, he was good in the 2 Midland games. So credit to them. We'll see. They're going to lay it all out there on Saturday, see if they can get it done. Let's go up to college. Talk college hockey. Actually, the Huskies have a big series at St. Thomas this weekend. I mentioned before St. Thomas went to Northern this past weekend that the Wildcats could really help out Tech by winning 1 or 2 of those games. Well, they didn't. So St. Thomas gets 6 points in Marquette. Now they're 2 points behind Tech for third. The Huskies are tied with Bowling Green. They do have the tiebreaker over Bowling Green, which is pretty significant. But a big series for the Huskies on the road. They split with Ferris last week. You thought they had a 2-goal lead on Saturday.
Yeah.
Let it slip. So it's a 3-point weekend. They have 40 points along with Bowling Green. St. Thomas there with 38. No one's catching Augustana, and Minnesota State won their 7th regular season title, the McNulty Cup, in 8 years.
It's wild.
Last year was Bemidji. Outside of that, Minnesota State's in this new CCHA,
They just find ways to win and consistently win. And
they get the best talent in the conference.
yeah, and we've talked about this too of they don't, I mean, I don't know how many ties they have, Minnesota State, on the year, but
2.
yeah, they don't tie. They don't tie. They're either winning or they're losing.
52 points we'll take Augustana out of the equation because they've only played 16 league games. But 52 to 40, Tech outside of Augustana is second.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, it's just they're finding ways to sweep, and we talked about this last year and even in this year, getting more separation in the league, and the way to do that is you've got to come away with weekend sweeps. You've got to find a way to get 6 points. And Minnesota State, for the last
Even
8
with
years,
the coaching change where their coach ended up at Wisconsin, last year was, I guess, a struggle for them, but just replenished the talent. And this year, I mean, even if they don't win the Mason Cup, they're in the NCAA tournament. They'll get an at-large. So, yeah, a very impressive season for them. The Huskies, I mean, Alex Nordstrom on Friday, that was very cool. The kid from the UP to get a natural hat trick. Dave Ellis telling me on Friday night that he's the first ever Tech player to do it with a power play goal, a shorthanded goal, and an even strength goal. I mean, think about how rare that is.
True, yeah.
To have a hat trick with a shorthanded goal in there. I mean, that's pretty sweet. And he turned it over. He had a dead-on breakaway, nailed it. So good for him. That was a big win for Tech. But I think we've been waiting all year for Isaac Gordon.
Yeah.
To show up. Chase Pietla has been really good on the back line. So they're good, but they haven't been consistent lately.
No, and I agree with that. And in the playoffs, they're going to have to find some consistency.
Well, the Winter Carnival against Bemidji, who's down this year, and then they
upsetting.
lose 2.
That was upsetting.
They're better on the road.
Yeah. So it's
I think they win at least one this weekend. Get home ice. That's my prediction.
Fair.
Northern, briefly.
It's your Super Bowl. It's your
All right.
last regular season series. You're not going to be in the
Your
playoffs.
year-long nightmare is kind of over.
Yeah.
I think everyone's probably happy that the season is coming to an end because it's been a tough one. I can't get over personally how Grant Patolny kind of screwed him by not stepping down in April when everyone went in the portal, when the writing was kind of on the wall.
Yeah.
Remember that situation was very awkward
for
a period of time. And then all of a sudden in June, it's like, I'm out, going to the AHL. All right, now we got to hire a coach, and we do, but everyone's out of the portal. So we're just going to bring freshmen in.
And you got 26 days to do it.
Yeah, scrape the bottom of the barrel in the portal with, D3 guys or guys who didn't play much in D1. They struck gold with Ryan Ouellette, who was a senior, so this was his only season with NMU. But, I mean, they have 5 wins on the year. You probably credit him for half of those.
Yeah, And I will, because it's coming to an end, I will give credit to Dave Shack and what he was able to do to
100%,
put a team
100%
on the ice in less than a month. And now that he's been here a year, now
and get them together, and you name a captain, Tanner Latch, who we both like, but he had played something like 10 games of college hockey, and he's your captain. So, yeah, tough situation, obviously. And they've got guys going, the freshmen Alt Richter and Slipik. The second half of the season, they've been really good, and they have gotten better. Shayak talks about that. They have gotten better. Winning against Minnesota State still blows my mind. And is pretty funny. You know, they get an overtime win at Lake State a couple weekends ago. So
the offseason, I think, will bode well for them.
And he's already been recruiting and getting that back going. So they'll be fine. It's just this year needs to end.
Yeah, it's we have to take our lumps this year. Now, do I think that they
Absolutely.
win the CCHA regular season next year? No. But do I think that they're not last? Yes. I don't think they're last next year.
I agree. It doesn't take a ton to completely turn it around. And
I mean,
Shayak said they've been in a lot of these games. They just don't.
They're not winless, and that is something that we can't say for.
They have 4 conference wins. Yep. But in 9th place, and will not be participating in the Mason Cup playoffs because there's 9 teams now with Augustana in. That's another factor. It was kind of an FU to Northern before the season, like, oh, Augustana is an official member now, so somebody's not going to make the playoffs, and it's probably going to be Northern.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, it is at the end of the year. Michigan Tech men's basketball. GLIAC regular season champions, at least a share, and they can clinch it outright on Saturday with a win at Parkside. They've won 6 in a row.
Man, are they fun to watch.
And not an easy 6 in a row. Think about who you had to play. Ferris State, Lake State, Northern, all at home. They're undefeated at home. They'll be back home for the quarters on Wednesday. I like the Huskies. I think they win the tournament, too.
Man, they are.
It's tough to say, but they'll have home court. We're fortunate because last year was Northern win the regular season title, and Tech, like I said, they can clinch it outright. Just need a win against Parkside or Lake State loss. So,
and we've talked about Marcus Tomaszek all year and what he does, but it's all
far
these
from
other
just
guys.
It's far from just him.
Adam Hobson and the games he's had.
He wasn't in double figures in either the Ferris or Lake State game.
Which is wild to me.
And just talking basketball with Matt Macrozak before they were getting ready to go up there, it was, did they push all their chips, I'm talking Ferris State and Lake State, towards Tomaszek and got burned by the other guys? And that's basically what happened because Adam Hobson on senior day against Lake State, that was an awesome performance where he had 24, I think. And Tomaszek didn't need to do all the scoring and carry the entire load. And, they go on the road Thursday night, get a win at Purdue Northwest fairly easily, 78-56. And Tomaszek had 20. You get 19 from Ty Fernholz. How big is that having him back? Yeah. Remember that first Northern game in Marquette?
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily Tomaszek in that game either.
Yeah, it was
Ty Fernholz.
From everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah.
If he was in the gym, it was going in.
So he's back in the lineup. How long was he out? I think it was something like that Northern game all the way until. So he was back, played 11 minutes in the Northern game in Houghton on February 20th. He was out for a month.
Yeah. Gone for a month, which was a big, like when you think about it in terms of scoring and just another guard on the floor.
His minutes are back up.
Yeah.
Played 22 against Purdue Northwest on Thursday. That's huge.
That is huge, and it will be huge for the Huskies in the tournament. A shot maker, a good defender. It will bode well for them. And man, they all do it. And maybe it's Marcus's night because it's his night a lot. But maybe it's not, It doesn't have to be all the time, which I think is what makes them.
I really love their team, and I think that Green Bay win injected life into them and told them they can beat anyone.
Yeah.
Even though Green Bay has 3 wins on the year.
That's tough. That's tough.
That's big. It's a
Yeah.
D2 team going on the road and beating a D1 team and making national headlines. Said, okay,
Yep.
well, now we're conference regular season champions. Lake State's at Wayne State on Saturday.
Not a gimme win. Wayne State
No.
has proved that they are one of the.
Because if they're making shots, they took it to Northern
Yeah.
in Marquette.
Yeah.
Northern, I'm not entirely up on their tournament situation. They didn't get any of the wins against Lake State, Fair State, or Tech. That's tough.
That's tough
They might have to win the tournament
to get a bid.
to go dancing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rule it out. I think Thursday at Parkside was their best game of the year because Parkside's not a bad team either. They're 11-8 in the conference now. 3 teams tied at 11-8 going into the final weekend. So that was a huge win for Northern. Otherwise, it would be Parkside at 12-7, alone in 4th, which is where Northern is, and then those 3 teams behind them, Grand Valley, Wayne, and Parkside, that are all 11-8, and Northern's at 12-7.
So the Northern one's home. They got to win them both.
Yeah, and I think look, you have to beat one of those 3 teams at some point
You got to beat
if you want to be a tournament
Yeah,
team.
I mean, they are. I think we said this all year. They are and I know that they played really well. In my eyes, they are the 4th best team in the conference. Now, the way that they've been
The
playing
standings say they are too.
lately, yeah, maybe they have, maybe they have a shot at, being, 2 or 3 in the conference, but you haven't beat the teams that are in front of you. So you
Absolutely, and that's why they're probably not in the tournament right now.
Yeah.
And if they don't quite, and I made this comparison early in the year, where they don't have the scoring to go out every night, at least they did on Thursday,
Yeah.
where they score in the 80s. Let's check the last time they scored up in the 80s.
And you thinking if they landed
83-70, they took down. Okay, they put up 84 against Fair State, but a track meet.
Yeah.
And they put up 74 in overtime against Lake State. They can't win a track meet. And so I said earlier in the year, they play like a Tennessee in the SEC, which has won so many games because they suffocate you, or St. John's or Michigan State. I think those are the 3 teams. We're going to get to Big Ten men's basketball in a minute. But I think those are the 3 teams that I'm not going to have them losing on the second game of a weekend. So I'm not going to have them losing in the round of 32. I'm not going to have them losing in the Elite Eight. I think they lose somewhere in, but because they suffocate you.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
With defense. And Northern hasn't necessarily been that. I'm talking defending at a high level, getting turnovers at times with their press when Macrazak puts that on. That helps, but they don't hold teams to 50.
Fair.
Is what I'm saying, and they didn't do that against Parkside. So if they get the scoring like they did, and they put up 43 in the first half at a 16-point lead against Parkside, I mean, that's great. Then they're in business because I think they haven't proved that they can be an elite defensive team and hold teams
To
down.
under 60.
Right, that's what I'm saying, and they didn't
Yeah.
do that. Now they scored, and they put the ball in the hoop. What'd they shoot from the field? They were 56%, 47% from 3. So that's a different team than we watched most of this year. Kiel had 17, Dudek had 17.
Man, he has been good.
Maybe I was wrong that the way they should win games is elite defense and forcing turnovers, points off turnovers. They haven't proven that, but Thursday night they proved that when they're on it, they're making shots.
And he can score the best of them. If you seed it right now, Northern is getting the 4.
Right.
They're at home. They're playing who's the 5 right now?
It's those 3 teams tied at 11-8. So
Yeah.
it could be Grand Valley, it could be Wayne, it could be Parkside.
And Wayne has beaten Northern this year.
And I would expect them to beat 3-16 Purdue Northwest on Saturday.
Yeah.
So that's huge. They would be home on Wednesday.
But so
And then you're going to win 2 more.
Yeah.
But you got to beat one of those 3 teams.
Yeah, and
that's ahead of you.
You're probably going to get. I'm trying to think of the back of my head. You won't get Tech. No, you would get Tech.
It really depends. Let's say our semifinals are the top 4 teams, and Michigan Tech is the 1, Northern's the 4, they would play each other in the semifinals.
Yeah.
In Houghton.
And that's tough. That's tough. Because
but they got to do it. That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
the only way they get into the tournament.
Yeah.
They beat those teams, and it would be the 3rd time that they play them. I'm not going to rule it out.
That's fair. I mean, who
You don't think Northern goes back to Houghton and could beat Tech?
No, I think they can.
I think they almost did. They were dead in the water in that game
I think
a
it's
couple
gonna be
weeks
tough.
ago.
Because here's the thing. Let's say they get Tech second
I'm
round.
rooting for it
I am too. They
because
get
Tech's in the tournament too.
Yeah.
So
for
they
sure.
don't need to win the GLIAC tournament to get in. They're getting in at large.
Let's say they go back, they beat Tech in the semifinal. Then you're knocking on the door. You probably give Lake State the edge over Ferris. And if they go head to head in the other semifinal, that's a tough road to get to the tournament.
And the championship would be at
Tech.
which advantaged Northern.
Yeah, because they play their more shorter trip for travel time.
Short trip, or they're staying there. Probably all 4 teams that make it to the semis would be staying there.
It's going to be exciting.
That's assuming Tech will be the 1 seed. They're going to win the conference outright. I have a feeling they're going to be Parkside on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. So I hope Northern does it, but again, win that quarterfinal game, which you will probably have at home,
Yep, which is good.
and 2 more games.
And 2 more, and you're in the dance.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll leave out the fact that they're playing 2 top 15
For the
teams.
3rd time.
For the
It's
3rd time.
tough to beat a team 3 times.
It is tough. I mean, the factors are there for it to happen. Northern has to either make one of 2 choices when they play these teams in the postseason. Either, like what you said, is be that gritty, suffocating, we're going to force 25
I've ruled that
turnovers.
out. They haven't done that.
Then they're going to have to score with the best of them. They're going to have to pound it inside. Dylan Keel's going to have to be a beast. Jackson Dudek's going to have to be a beast. Sam Privet's
They were
gonna
on
have to hit
Thursday.
a
That's
couple
why I
threes.
think they can.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's talk D1 men's basketball.
How are you feeling?
Want to talk about Wednesday?
Yeah. How are you feeling?
So this is Michigan State, Maryland, by the way. I'm a alum of the University of Maryland. And I love Michigan State. God, I love Izzo. It's just tough because his teams, they fight harder than anyone else in the country, and that's why I put him in the same category as Tennessee and St. John's, because they are the same types of team. They don't shoot it well, and
No.
Maryland was sagging off of them, playing in drop coverage, and I thought that was the right call. Kevin Willard, Maryland's coach, I thought really mixed it up defensively. He would go zone into man on the same possession, and vice versa. And they were sagging off of him. Jeremy Fears makes a big 3. Jaden Akins makes a big 3. And Michigan State pulls away because Maryland couldn't get the scoring. Their guards, which have been awesome this year, the Crab 5, maybe the best starting 5 in America. Maryland has no depth. But they weren't scoring like they have most of this year. They weren't making shots like they have most of this year because Michigan State is that elite defensive team who I thought Northern could be. And it was incredible to watch Michigan State say, yeah, we're the best team in the conference by playing this way.
Yeah.
We don't have to make threes, but we'll make timely threes like Fears and Akins did. And that's the reason Maryland wasn't in the game. They shot 20% from 3. That's way down from their season average. But they got to the free throw line in the final minutes, and then boom, boom, we're tied at 55 after, how poetic, Trey Holloman turns it over in the backcourt and fouls Jacoby Gillespie. Wasn't a foul. I said that on air the other day when I ran the highlights. So hand up, we shouldn't have gotten 2 free throws there and have a chance to tie the game, but they did. I said, stop and a rebound, Michigan State. If I'm a Spartan fan, I'm worried about that. You had a possession there to win the game, and they got a terrible look. Didn't get an offensive rebound, which they got so many of. Another reason why they win games. Offensive rebounds, elite defense, run the floor. We're going to beat you that way, and they do, for the most part. But in that possession, they had nothing. Maryland, no timeouts, rebound. Gillespie, he's our best guard, transfer from Belmont. Oof.
Do you like that? Or that three and,
No. Because I just said they got back in the game and tied it at 55 because they got to the free throw line.
Yes.
5 seconds left on the clock. Am I mad that he took a three? No. The issue is he took it with 5 seconds left. Yeah. And this is like the physics of basketball, too. 5 seconds left, shots in the air. It comes off the front of the rim into the arms of Jackson Kohler, legitimately right in his arms. Yep. And I said, Ben can attest, when we were watching the game in the newsroom, I said the shot didn't go in. 3 seconds left, Kohler's grabbing it, and I said, okay, overtime. Holloman, he had maybe one dribble, 60 feet, and never a doubt it didn't rattle around at all. It had, they had the mic on the rim. It was just a sweet little swish, and he clearly got it off in time. Just incredible. And then Izzo after the game says that he gives the guys 2 half-court shots before a home game or whatever at the end of practice, and he said Holloman made 2 of them the last week. Yeah. Incredible moment. I mean, get you ready for March. And then Michigan does it last night. Yeah. Namari Burnett against Rutgers at home, and they keep winning close games. They haven't won a game by more than 4 points since mid-January.
Sounded like the Kansas City Chiefs can't win it.
Exactly. That's why I think Michigan State's better than Michigan. They proved it in Ann Arbor, but they have to play again in East Lansing on March the 9th. And because Michigan won that game against Rutgers and Michigan State won the game at Maryland, the conference is probably going to come down to that game on March the 9th. Yeah. So what a moment for Trey Holloman. He was 2 for 11.
Yeah, but that does not matter because he made Yeah, it
was incredible. And I agree with Izzo. He said after the game, we deserved to win that game. Let him back in by fouling them. True. They're the tougher team. I had my tweet ready that the Spartans were tougher and that was the difference. It was the difference until we tied it and they had to win it on a buzzer beater. I'm not mad it was a 3. I'm mad it was a 3 with 5 seconds left.
Fair.
And also, go to the rim. It's a tie game.
True. Go to the rim. High ball. I thought for sure quick high ball screen. You either get to the rim, or you're pulling it.
And our bigs weren't good. Derek Queen is one of the best freshmen in the country. He's going to be a lottery pick. And Julian Reed's been at Maryland forever. He's been playing in the conference for 4 years now. They were not as good as they were all year. Yeah. Maryland at Michigan on Wednesday in Ann Arbor. That should be fun.
Should be a good one.
And Julian Reese and Derek Queen need to play a lot better if they want to win that game.
I will say, it's exciting to say that Michigan State and Michigan basketball
is fun.
It's back.
Yeah, you think about those years where Beeline had the Wolverines going, Trey Burke, they go to the championship game. They go to the championship game in 18, and Michigan State was Michigan State during that time, where they were outstanding. And then, a year after, Michigan goes to the national title game. MSU is there in the Final Four in Minneapolis. It's fun to have them rolling at the same time once again. Dusty May's an outstanding coach. I knew he would do a good job at Michigan. Yep. Didn't take him long with the portal either, getting Danny Wolf from Yale and bringing Vlad Golden with him from FAU. So, it's fun. And
you got a sleeper team for March?
I think we have the same one, the Drake Bulldogs.
Yeah, give it to me. Yep.
I love the Missouri Valley teams. So Sunday, I'm watching. You're driving back from Milwaukee, but I'm watching Northern Iowa play Drake essentially for the conference regular season title in the Missouri Valley. And our boy Max Weisbrod made a big oopsie.
No. I did watch that after you texted me.
At the end of regulation, Northern Iowa at home up to last second heave from Drake. Weisbrod fouls him. Kid goes to the free throw line, makes 2. We go to overtime. Drake wins it in overtime. But Coach Ben McCollum at Drake, coming up from Northwest Missouri State, your old stomping grounds, you know him.
Yeah.
And he's an exceptional coach.
Yeah.
And he showing that off at Drake.
I told you my fun fact about him, right? His conference title record. He hasn't not won a conference title since 2012.
Yeah, and now doing it at
Yeah.
Drake. I think they clinched at least a share as well. Arch Madness is one of the first conference tournaments. So I believe that starts next week in St. Louis. I always liked teams out of the Missouri Valley. It was Drake and St. Louis. Indiana State with big Robbie Avila. They played in that championship game last year, and I thought the loser should have gotten in that large bid. Indiana State doesn't get in. Drake won, so they obviously got the automatic bid.
Yeah.
Their coach off to West Virginia, insert Ben McCollum, and they are a great, great team. The Akron Zips is another one out of the MAC. I believe they're undefeated in the MAC. John Gross, if you remember, he was the coach at Illinois after coming over from Ohio, another MAC team. That guy knows how to coach mid-major basketball. So the Akron Zips, another team to look out for. And as I mentioned, I'm not picking Michigan State to lose in the Elite Eight or in the round of 32. If they lose, I'm going to pick them to lose in the Sweet 16, or else they're going to the Final Four. Because you get that team 48 hours after you have to play, you're not ready for them, they're going to beat you.
They're going to beat you. Yeah.
So that's why if they're in the round of 32, put them in the Sweet 16. If they're in the Elite Eight, put them in the Final Four.
That's fair.
That's where I'm at. You can't beat them on one day of rest. So, March hockey,
it's
basketball, it's fun. District finals tonight. Tune in to Friday Night Fever. We'll have that Marquette game. Basketball and hockey, and then Jeffers hockey as well on Saturday. So thanks for joining us here on UP Power. We'll see you again next week. For Keegan Cooper, I'm Kevin McNulty, and have a great weekend.